Here we go again. Another night, another endless scroll. My thumb has a mind of its own, flicking past lives that aren't mine, victories I haven't earned, and happiness that feels a million miles away. It starts innocently enough. Just a quick check of emails, maybe a funny video or two. But then the algorithm takes over. It knows my weaknesses. It knows the anxieties that whisper in the back of my mind, and it serves them up on a silver platter, disguised as content. Suddenly, it's 1 a.m. My eyes burn from the blue light, but my brain is buzzing, a chaotic symphony of information overload. A friend just got a promotion. Someone I went to high school with is on vacation in a place I can't even pronounce. A headline screams about another global crisis, and a dozen different articles tell me I'm not saving enough, not exercising enough, not being productive enough. The weight of it all is crushing. I feel like I'm running a race I didn't even know I'd entered, and I'm already miles behind. I finally force myself to put the phone down, but sleep doesn't come easy. My mind just replays the highlight reel of everyone else's life, comparing it to my own behind-the-scenes struggles. It's a toxic cocktail of envy, inadequacy, and a strange, hollow loneliness, even though I've just been connected to thousands of people. Then, the inevitable happens. The alarm blares, a brutal assault on the senses. It feels like I just closed my eyes. My head is foggy. My body is heavy with a fatigue that sleep didn't touch. I hit snooze. Once, twice. The morning rush is now a full-blown panic. I stumble out of bed, already late. There's no time for a proper breakfast, just a frantic search for clean clothes and my keys. As I rush out the door, coffee splashing on my hand, the feeling of being overwhelmed is immediate. The day hasn't even started, and I'm already defeated. I'm fighting a battle against time, a battle against my own exhaustion, all because I sacrificed my peace for a few more hours of digital distraction. This cycle is so familiar. The stressful morning, the tired afternoon, the vow to do better tonight. But then the evening comes, the phone is in my hand, and the scroll begins again. It's an addiction, a modern-day prison where the bars are made of pixels and the warden is my own lack of self-control. I see it everywhere. People walking down the street, heads bowed to their screens. Families at restaurants, silent. We're more connected than ever, yet we feel more isolated, each lost in their own digital world. We have access to infinite information, but we lack wisdom. We chase virtual validation while our real-life connections wither. I wonder, what am I really looking for in that endless feed? Am I looking for a connection, for an escape? Or am I just trying to numb the feeling that something is fundamentally missing? The pressure to be always on, always available, always performing. It's exhausting. We're expected to have a perfect career, a perfect family, a perfect body, and document it all with a perfect filter. But life isn't perfect. It's messy and complicated and beautiful in its own imperfect way. Maybe the answer isn't out there, in the glowing rectangle. Maybe it's in here, in the quiet moments, in putting the phone down and picking up a book, in having a real conversation with a friend, face to face, in just sitting with my own thoughts, no matter how uncomfortable they might be. I know breaking this habit is hard. It's designed to be hard, but I'm starting to realize that my mental health, my peace of mind, is worth more than another like, another share, another fleeting digital distraction. The real world is waiting. It's time to look up from the screen and start living in it again. Tonight, I'm going to try something different. I'll leave my phone in another room. Maybe I'll read. Maybe I'll listen to some music. Or maybe I'll just do nothing at all. I want to see what it feels like to fall asleep without the weight of the digital world on my mind, and wake up feeling rested, not just recycled. It's a small step, but it feels like a revolution, a quiet rebellion against the noise. If any of this sounds familiar to you, know that you're not alone. It's a struggle many of us face, and if you're finding these feelings of pressure and anxiety are too much to handle on your own, please remember it is always okay to reach out for help. Talking to a friend, a family member, or a mental health professional can make a world of difference. Your well-being is the most important thing. Thanks for listening to my thoughts on this. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. Let's talk about it. And don't forget to subscribe for more content about navigating this crazy modern life. Take care of yourselves. See, we've been trying to fix the wrong thing. You think the problem is a lack of action, but what if the problem is what's happening before any action is even possible? That space between waking up and choosing your first move. Right now, for Mark, and for so many of us, that space isn't a space at all. It's immediately filled with a digital tidal wave. And a study from MIT back in 2024 found something terrifying. Checking a smartphone within 5 minutes of waking up increases your cortisol, your main stress hormone, by an average of 28%. You are literally programming your nervous system for anxiety and reaction before your feet even touch the floor. So you drag that stress with you. To the coffee maker, to the shower, onto the crowded train, into your workday. It's no wonder you feel hijacked. It's no wonder you're exhausted by 10 a.m. You started your day in a state of emergency. But what if there was a way to disarm that alarm? Not the one on your phone, the one in your nervous system. What if the most powerful thing you could do was DDTT about adding more to your life? More podcasts, more news, more tips, but about creating a simple, protected space for what's already there. Your own thoughts, your own quiet, your own direction. It starts with a single, simple, almost laughably low-tech object, and a different choice in that crucial first minute of consciousness. A choice that doesn't require willpower. It just requires a different reach. For Mark, that change would begin not with a heroic 5 a.m. wake-up, but on another night, much like this one, a night where the scrolling felt emptier than ever, and the silence afterwards felt heavier. A night where a simple question, whispered in his own mind, finally broke through the noise. What am I actually looking for in all this? And the answer, when it came, was surprisingly simple. He wasn't looking for information. He was looking for himself. And he wasn't going to find that on any screen. He was going to find it in the quiet he'd been running from. His journey, and maybe yours, starts right there. So Mark tried. After that night of scrolling, he felt a real spark of motivation. He decided, okay, that's it. Tomorrow I change. He went to sleep with a new resolve. And the next morning, when his alarm blared at 6:30 a.m., he did something different. He didn't hit snooze. He forced himself to sit up. He swung his legs out, and with a huge effort, he stood up. He felt proud for a second. He'd done it. He stumbled to the kitchen, made his coffee, and instead of checking his phone, he put on a motivational podcast. A different one this time. A famous CEO talking about leaning in and crushing your goals. He listened, sipping his coffee, nodding along. It felt good. It felt productive. This was it. This was the fix. He got ready, got on the train, headphones still piping in high-energy advice. He walked into his office feeling a little buzz, but by 10:15 a.m. it was gone. The buzz had faded into a familiar low hum of anxiety. The CEO's voice was a distant memory, drowned out by the 100 small demands of his inbox and his boss popping by his desk. By Wednesday afternoon, he was back to his old routine. The 6:30 a.m. willpower burst felt like a distant, failed experiment. And that feeling is the worst. It's not just failing. It's the voice that says, "See, you can't do it. You're just not that person." This is where most stories stop. We blame ourselves. We call it laziness, a lack of discipline. We think, oh, if only I wanted it more. But what if that's the trap? What if the problem isn't a lack of want, but the very identity you've built around the problem? Let me explain. Mark didn't think he was just someone who scrolled too much. He had a whole story. He'd tell his friends, "Oh, I'm a total night owl. My brain just doesn't turn on until midnight." Or, "I'm an information junkie. I need to know what's happening." He'd joke, "I'm powered by anxiety and cold brew." It was a funny line, but deep down, he'd started to believe it. He believed he was fundamentally not a morning person. He believed he needed that external noise, the podcast, the news, the social feed, to jumpstart his brain. That identity became his safe, familiar cage. Trying to be a 5 a.m. club guy felt like trying to wear someone else's clothes. It was uncomfortable, fake, and it never fit. The villain here isn't laziness. It's a specific, sneaky, false belief. I need stimulation to transition from sleep to awake. The world's information is my coffee. We think we're filling ourselves up, but we're actually giving our most precious resource, our first, freshest attention, away to whatever or whoever shouts the loudest. Let me tell you about Sarah. She's a real person, though that's not her real name. She's a graphic designer in Austin, 34 years old. She's brilliant and creative, but she believed her own version of the story. She believed she did her best thinking late at night, with movies playing in the background and her phone buzzing with notifications. She'd design until 1 a.m., fueled by takeout and the quiet of the night. It felt romantic, like the artist's life, but her mornings were a disaster. She'd sleep through 3 alarms, wake up with a dry mouth and a pounding heart, already late for client calls. Her first hour was a panic scroll through emails and texts, her creativity for her actual work completely emptied out before the day even began. She was constantly playing catch-up, constantly apologizing for being out of it until noon. She thought she was just a chaotic creative. That was her identity, and it was holding her career and her peace hostage. a silent invitation waiting for him. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. We've all been there. It's 3:17 a.m. You're wide awake. Your mind is racing. A noisy highway of thoughts about work, about life, about that one dumb thing you said 5 years ago. And what's the first thing you do? Your hand, almost with a mind of its own, starts reaching for your phone. That little black rectangle on your nightstand. You tell yourself, I'll just check the time. But you know that's a lie. A quick time check turns into a weather check, which then slides into the endless hypnotic scroll of social media, emails, and news alerts. Before you know it, an hour has passed. Your anxiety is higher than ever, and you're even further from sleep. But what if, just one time, you did something different? What if instead of reaching for the screen, you reached for a pen? This is a story about a guy. Let's call him Alex. Alex is in his 30s, drowning in the pressures of his career. He's perpetually tired, stressed, and running on fumes. One night, just like the one I described, he woke up. The familiar buzz of unattended thoughts filled his head. His hand started its usual journey towards his phone, but this time, his fingers brushed against something else. A simple notebook and a pen he'd bought on a whim. He hesitated. In that quiet, dark moment, an idea sparked. A small, almost silly experiment. What if he just didn't? What if he picked up the pen instead? The resistance was real. It felt like trying to use a muscle he never knew he had. His brain started throwing every excuse at him. This is stupid. You're too tired. Just check your phone for a second. What if there's an emergency? The anxiety started to hum in his chest, his fingers twitching towards the phone again. But with a grunt of effort, he rolled over, grabbed the notebook, and flicked on his bedside lamp. The light was harsh. He squinted, sitting up in bed, and opened to the first blank page. It was terrifyingly empty, almost expectant. He clicked the pen. The sound echoed in the silent room. And then, nothing. For a full minute, his mind was a storm of white noise. This is idiotic, he muttered. He was so close to giving up, to surrendering to the familiar digital comfort. But he didn't. Instead, he put the pen to the paper and wrote the only thing he was truly feeling. I am so tired. The letters were big and sloppy. He looked at the words. They looked pathetic. So he wrote them again. I am so tired. And again. Tired, tired, tired. He filled half a line with just that word. And you know what? It felt like scratching an unbearable itch. Then, another thought broke through. I hate that project meeting on Fridays. He wrote it down. It felt almost dangerous to admit it, even to a piece of paper. But he kept going. Jenkins talks in circles for an hour, and we decide nothing. The words started pouring out of him. No punctuation, no rules. The coffee in the office tastes like burnt dirt. Why do we buy that brand? The chair in my cubicle squeaks. He wrote about the squeaky chair for 3 whole lines. It was the most trivial, mundane thing in the world. But as he wrote it, he could actually hear the squeak in his head, feel the tiny spike of annoyance it caused him 10 times a day. He'd never consciously acknowledged it before. He'd just swallowed the irritation. Now, it was out. It was on the page. He wasn't writing a diary. He wasn't trying to craft beautiful sentences. This was a brain dump, a mental release valve. The pen scratched against the paper, a dry, organic sound so different from the silent tap of a screen. He filled the entire page with a chaotic mess of complaints, random observations, and half-formed ideas. When he was done, he clicked the pen closed. He looked at the page, covered in his own sloppy handwriting, and expected to feel foolish. And he did, a little. But underneath that he felt something else. A faint, almost imperceptible lightness. It was like he'd taken all the cluttered, buzzing files on his mental desktop and dragged them into a single folder labeled Later. They weren't gone, but they were no longer in his way. He turned off the lamp. The room went dark again, but this time it felt different, softer, quieter, both inside his head and out. He fell back asleep in what felt like minutes. When his alarm went off at 6:30, something had changed. He still hit snooze once. Old habits die hard. But when he finally woke up, he didn't feel that usual wave of dread. He felt neutral, clear. He remembered the notebook. He didn't reach for his phone. He reached for the pen. In the soft morning light, he wrote just one line on a new page. Friday. Just get through the meeting, then figure out the chair. It wasn't a grand, life-altering plan. It was a simple, actionable directive from himself to himself. He got up, made coffee, and actually drank it while looking out the window instead of scrolling through a feed of curated perfection and outrage. He didn't touch his phone until he was walking out the door, and even then, he just checked the time. That familiar morning stress, that cortisol spike that feels like a punch to the gut. It didn't come. The surface of his mind was calm. And this right here is the part nobody talks about. The first victory is microscopic. It's not a transformed life overnight. It's not a lightning bolt of inspiration. It's 3 sentences scrawled in the dark about how tired you are. It feels silly. It feels pointless. You don't see angels or have a sudden epiphany. You just get a slightly quieter mind. A tiny bit of space where there was none before. But this is also the exact point where 95% of people quit. Why? Because we're trained to expect drama. We want the movie montage, the explosive change, the immediate, massive payoff. When all we get is a squeaky pen and a page full of complaints, we think, this isn't working. We dismiss it. We go back to our phones, searching for that magic bullet podcast or that perfect productivity app that promises to solve everything for us. We forget that every significant journey begins with a single, often awkward, step. The real magic isn't in the dramatic transformation. It's in the quiet, consistent act of showing up for yourself, one messy page at a time. It's about reclaiming your own mind from the digital noise, one thought at a time. That first night of writing wasn't the solution to all of Alex's problems. It was just the beginning. It was the moment he stopped looking for an escape and started creating a path. So next time you wake up at 3 a.m. and your hand starts drifting towards your phone, maybe try the experiment. Grab a notebook. It doesn't have to be fancy. A pen. And just write down whatever is in your head. Write, I'm tired. Write about your squeaky chair. It might feel silly, but it might also be the quietest, most powerful act of rebellion you can perform for your own well-being. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more content on finding clarity in our noisy world. See you next time. But you, right now, if you've ever tried something this simple and felt that flicker of, this is dumb, you need to know something. That feeling is the signpost. That resistance is the edge of the old trap. When you feel it and do the small, simple thing anyway, you cross a border. You're in the 5% now. The magic isn't in the words on the page. Let me say that again. The magic is not in what you write. You could write the word cat 100 times. The magic is in the space the writing creates, inside your skull. It's the act of channeling your energy outward, onto a physical page, instead of pulling the world's chaos inward through a screen. For those few minutes, you are the broadcaster, not the receiver. You are deciding what matters, even if what matters is a squeaky office chair. A study from Baylor University found something beautiful about this. Writing by hand, they discovered, engages a part of your brain called the reticular activating system, or RAS, about 70% more effectively than typing. Your RAS is your brain's filter. It decides what you pay attention to. When you write by hand, you are literally training your brain's filter to prioritize your thoughts. You are telling your mind, this is signal, everything else is just noise. Mark didn't know any of this neuroscience that Friday. All he knew was that the project meeting, which he usually endured in a fog of resentment, felt different. When Jenkins started talking in circles, Mark didn't just fume internally. He calmly pulled out his work notebook, a different one, and wrote, Jenkins, circular point about budget. Ask for clarification on Q3 numbers. He looked at his note from the morning. Figure out the chair. On his lunch break, he went online and ordered a can of WD-40. It cost $8. It was a tiny victory, but it was a completed, tiny victory. He had identified a minor annoyance and solved it. That's a muscle he hadn't used in years. The first break isn't about fixing your whole life. It's about creating the first hairline crack in the wall of noise. It's about proving to yourself, in the simplest way possible, that you have a voice underneath all the static, that you can give yourself an instruction and then follow it, even if the instruction is as simple as write 3 words, or fix the squeak. That night, Mark didn't feel the frantic need to scroll until his brain shut off. He felt a gentle curiosity. The notebook was there. The pen was there. What would happen tonight? He didn't have to change his identity. He didn't have to become a morning person. He just had to be willing to pick up the pen one more time and see what happened. The journey of 1,000 miles begins not with a step, but with a single, simple click in the dark. And the quiet that follows is the most powerful sound you'll ever hear. It's the sound of your own life, waiting for you to start living it on your own terms. 2 weeks later, the notebook was no longer a strange object on the nightstand. It was a fixture. The black cover was now softened at the corners, and the first 15 pages were filled with Mark's chaotic, sprawling handwriting. Some pages were just lists of words. Tired, rain, projector broken in conference room, Thai food for dinner. Others had fragments of ideas like, what if podcasts had a whisper mode for late nights? Or Call Dad Sunday. It was the archaeological record of a mind slowly waking up. But this wasn't magic. This was the daily war. And like any war, it had good days, bad days, and a lot of very ordinary muddy trench days in between. The single page at 3 a.m. had been the first crack. Now, almost without realizing it, Mark had built a tiny structure around that crack. He didn't call it a protocol or a system. He would have laughed at those words. To him, it was just the thing I do that makes the day less terrible. It had 5 simple parts, and they happened in the same order every morning, like a secret handshake with himself. Part 1. The page. This was non-negotiable. Whether he woke up at 3:17 a.m. from a dream or at 6:30 a.m. from his alarm, the very first move was toward the notebook. Not the phone. The reach was becoming automatic. The dry scratch of the pen, the smell of the paper. These were now the signals to his body that the day was beginning on his terms. He didn't write wisdom. He just wrote whatever was in the filter. Some mornings it was 3 lines. Some mornings it was 2 pages of frantic worry about work. It didn't matter. The point was the download, empty the cache. Part 2. The 5-minute stare. This was the hardest part at first. After clicking the pen closed, he'd just sit. He'd look out his bedroom window at the old brick building across the alley. In late October in Chicago, the dawn came later. So often he was just staring at dark windows and the orange glow of a single security light. He didn't try to meditate. He didn't try to think positive. He just let the thoughts from the page float around. The silence was a living thing. Sometimes it felt peaceful. Sometimes it felt heavy. But he stayed in it. For 5 minutes he didn't consume, produce, or react. He just existed. He started to notice things, the way the light changed so gradually, the pattern of the bricks, a single pigeon that seemed to roost on the same ledge every morning. Part 3. The single anchor question. As he got out of bed, he'd ask himself one thing. What is one thing I want to finish today? Not start. Finish. This was a game changer. It shifted his focus from an overwhelming to-do list to a single finish line. One day it was, finish the draft of the marketing email. Another day it was, finish cleaning out that one kitchen drawer. The scale didn't matter. The clarity did. It gave his day a spine. He'd walk to the kitchen and drink a full, tall glass of cool water straight from the tap. He could feel it travel down, a clean internal wash. Then right there on the cool hardwood floor, he'd do 5 cat-cow stretches. He felt silly the first time, but the slow arch and curl of his spine felt incredible, like popping the seal on a stiff jar. Then, and only then, would he look at the time. Often he was shocked. What felt like an hour of writing and staring had only been 20 minutes. He had so much more time than he thought. He made a new rule: no caffeine, no podcasts, no news for at least 90 minutes after waking. This felt like breaking a chemical addiction. The first few days, the craving for that immediate coffee and headlines jolt was intense. But he stuck to it. He'd make his coffee, but he'd sip it slowly while getting ready, tasting it, the nutty, bitter notes, instead of gulping it like medicine. By the time he got on the train, his own internal energy, his natural cortisol, the good wake-up kind, not the stress kind, had kicked in. He didn't need the artificial boost. Now this all sounds smooth when you lay it out. It was anything but. There were major setbacks. There was the Tuesday he slept through his alarm and woke up at 7:05 a.m. in a total panic. The old script screamed in his head, "You're late. Disaster. Hurry." His hand shot out for his phone. He fired off a "sorry, running late" email before his feet hit the floor. He felt the familiar hot rush of stress. He was back in the old pattern. But as he was brushing his teeth, he stopped. He looked at his frantic reflection in the mirror. He thought, the protocol is broken today. But does it have to be totally abandoned? He went back to his bedroom. He didn't write a page. He didn't have time. But he picked up the pen, opened the notebook, and wrote one word in huge letters. Rush. He took 3 deep breaths, staring at the word. Then he closed it. It wasn't perfect, but it was a reset, a tiny anchor in the storm. He finished getting ready, and his commute was rushed but not frantic. The day wasn't lost. That was the lesson. The protocol wasn't a cage. It was a home base. You could get knocked out of it. The trick was knowing how to find your way back, even with just one word. He started tracking his progress in a simple, visual way. On his wall calendar, a free one from a local pizza place, he had put a small green X on any day he completed the core of the ritual, the page and the stare. After 2 weeks, he looked at it. a chain of green X's with a few blank spaces where life had gotten in the way. Seeing it physically changed something. It wasn't about perfection. It was about direction. The green X's were a quiet story of commitment he was telling himself. He also discovered the power of doing it alone, together. He'd mentioned the notebook to his friend, Chloe, who lived in Seattle and also complained of endless brain fog. They made a silly pact. Every morning they'd send a single photo to each other on a private message thread. No words, just a picture of their completed notebook page for the day. It wasn't about sharing the content. The photos were often blurry and unreadable. It was about the silent accountability. Seeing Chloe's photo pop up at 7 a.m. her time, 9 a.m. his time, was a nudge. It was a reminder that he wasn't the only person in the world trying to carve out a little, quiet sanity. The community of two made the solitary act feel connected. The transformation wasn't in a dramatic event. It was in a time lapse of small wins. It was in the sensory details of a new normal, the sight of the morning sky, which he now saw in stages, indigo, to deep blue, to a streak of fiery orange. The sound was no longer the blare of a podcast, but the rich, quiet symphony of his neighborhood waking up. A distant garbage truck beeping, the soft coo of pigeons, the click of his own coffee maker. The feeling was the solid weight of the pen in his hand, the pleasant ache in his back from the stretches, the clean taste of water. He started his workday not with a reactive scramble, but with intention. He'd look at his one thing to finish and block out time for it first. He found he was saying no more easily to distractions that didn't serve that goal. His work didn't become instantly amazing, but his relationship to it changed. He was in the driver's seat, not in the passenger seat being thrown around by every pothole. A 2025 report from the American Psychological Association put data to what he was feeling. They found that people who practiced what they called an analog sunrise, a screen-free intentional start like Mark S., reported a 40% greater sense of agency and control over their work weeks. They felt like authors of their days, not readers. This daily war isn't fought with massive efforts of will. It's fought with tiny repeated actions that slowly rewire your default settings. It's fought by forgiving yourself when you mess up and coming back to the simple click of a pen. It is realizing that the most powerful community you can build isn't always a huge group. It is one or two people who understand the quiet struggle and cheer for your green X's. The fog doesn't lift all at once. It evaporates, molecule by molecule, each time you choose your own quiet over the world's noise. Each time you finish that one thing, you prove to yourself that you are capable of follow-through. Each silent morning, stare strengthens a muscle of patience you didn't know you had. You are not just building a better morning. You are rebuilding, from the ground up, your belief in yourself. And that is a foundation that can hold the weight of any dream you want to build on top of it. The war is daily, yes, but the general is finally you.